integrate your front end with any API in a few minutes and in a secure way. In this video, we'll be connecting an application which displays GIFs. This one here. It's displaying a random GIF on top and it has a search functionality. And we're integrating this one with the Giphy API. Let's take a look at the code. First off, you'll note that line 9, we have our secret key hard-coded to our code. This is not what we want because it's exposing our API key to any visitor on the site. You'll see here we're using the API Giphy, and we're using a parameter to pass in the API. The API key. So the best way to handle this is to KOR Connect. Let's take a look at how. In our dashboard, we'll just click on Connect API, and we can name our new API, call this Giphy. The API key, I have another screen, let me copy that over. Okay, don't worry, this expires right after our video. Giphy uses as a header name API underscore key. And the API URL is going to be the base URL. Basically, what we want is to find the pattern that repeats for all endpoints, which for me in this case means everything up to v1. You can also choose just a base domain up to the TLD. But for me, it just means copying this code at the end. And for the domain, you can notice that you can add multiple domains. But for the domain, we'll add localhost because we're in development. But basically, you can add the production domain that the site is going to be using. KOR Connect will only allow requests coming in from that frontend, from that domain. For now, though, localhost it is, and do remember to just remove this when you're in production. All right, let's create that connection. We have a short video here to guide you through the initial installation. Going into the connection profile, you'll notice some details. Mostly important is the secure URL, which is the substitute of the base URL for your API. And a nice thing is about snippets, where you'll see a quick guide of how to integrate this to the most popular frameworks out there. We're using React, so I'll choose this one. The first step is to install all the dependencies. I already have these dependencies installed in my project, so I'll skip this one. Let's move to the index.js. This is using pretty much setting up reCAPTCHA. So let's copy that part and let's move over to our code. Now, reCAPTCHA is used because KOR Connect uses it as a attestations provider. This and other validations are made to keep your connection secure, to keep your front end being the only one that can call the endpoint, and to keep to add additional security, we have things like timestamp, making sure that your connections are made within a certain amount of time. Also a point score, which is partly what reCAPTCHA does as well, where it will score the traffic or the type of request, meaning that if it identifies a pattern, an unnatural pattern, a suspicious pattern they call it, then your traffic will be blocked as well. And what I've done is just replace in my code the same configuration that we had in the snippet. reCAPTCHA here only has this reCAPTCHA key, which is a public key, so it's there's no harm in exposing this one. Okay, now app.js is the next step. Let's take a look at that snippet. And this snippet is another component, so full-fledged component. We won't copy the whole thing because it's going to rewrite our own logic. So we'll just go and get the parts of this that we'll need. Start by importing the reCAPTCHA library as well. Could just put this one here on top. The next step is this constant from reCAPTCHA again. And we'll put this here. I also want to remove the secret token before I forget, which is the main driver for me to implement KOR Connect for now. And note that I have two API calls. I want to copy this over to both codes, to both functions. So I'll just grab the code from the validation that they have on top down to how they're handling the response. And I'll put it down here for now. Let's start with the validation. Put this one on top. Then we'll use the two constants that you're using. The constants here on top, the token is the token from reCAPTCHA, and the timestamp is that the timestamp we were talking about that adds additional validation to the request. Then the next step is to substitute the URL. If you remember, we talked about how that secure URL that KOR Connect provided is going to be substituting the base URL. So we'll grab this URL and we'll replace everything up to v1, which is what we defined as our base URL before. The other thing we want to do here, actually, let's just do the same on the function below, everything up to v1. There you go. And the next step is that we're not using a token anymore. So I'll remove that from the parameters, again, for the function below. There you go. And the last part is just adding the headers. I'll remove this part of the response. I don't need that at the moment. I'll remove this comment as well. It's clear what I want to accomplish. And that's not needed anymore. Great. The header on top means I can format it correctly. So I have now my token that was defined above, timestamp as well, and I have this XAP API key, which, by the way, is going to be a public API key as well. It's not meant for authentication. It's meant to check on performance and so on. Now I'll copy over the headers from this function to the next function. And that's it. Just quickly format this one. There you go. And notice that our token and timestamp are not recognized. That's because we defined it on the function above and it's scoped to that function. So we need to initialize them here as well. There you go. Now, up to this point, the functions are complete. What we want is to make sure that the rest of our component is also set up correctly. I'm pretty sure we'll be managing this use effect React hook. So you'll see here that they're validating that the library has loaded. The execute reCAPTCHA, which is constant above, calling the Google reCAPTCHA import. We need to make sure that that's already loaded. So we're also calling the handle get here. I don't need it below. There you go. I think that's about it. Yeah, what we have below is mainly a styling change where we are, well, the snippet is suggesting that you can display the reCAPTCHA badge in a different way. There's more information about that at the bottom as well. That's optional. I'll skip it for now to make it to keep it simpler. So I'll make sure to save this. Just checking if there are any additional errors. Looks good. And let's take a look at our application. So this is what was being rendered before. Let's refresh. And there you go. We have a new Giphy. Let's take a look at the search functionality. Hello. Oh, there you go. It's displaying all the GIFs that found, the random GIF at the top, so both functions are working. The cool thing about this now is that we just replaced the functionality that we had by calling the Giphy API directly with the core component. And it's a really quick integration, no setup. KOR Connect didn't take any time at all to generate this module for us. And now we can confidently just publish this to a production site, or basically a CDN, without concerns of requiring a host to store environment variables and so on. That's it. Thank you very much for listening.